I've just been sitting here a little bit bewildered as to where to start, feeling a little bit of angst inside because something needs to be said, something needs to be released. And it stems from an interaction I had with my sister last night when she insisted on coming round, even though she knows it breaks my silence and my stillness and my calmness, because she can only take that away. She can never add to it. And that's why our relationship has been very difficult for many years now, because she doesn't have any awareness of my stillness. She's got no idea. That notion is completely unfathomable to her because she's never experienced it. Because she possesses, or is possessed by, too many demons, unresolved issues, people, unresolved issues. And she has been for all of her life, since she was a very small child. Now, she grew up in the same family, under the same circumstances as I did, and yet we are vastly different creatures. Because one has managed to make a certain transition into another pond of life, and one hasn't. But you see, she has no idea of the pond that I'm in, and yet she is absolutely insistent that she knows me through and through. She knows me better than I know myself, when the reality is all what she thinks she knows about me is just a projection of her own suffering and pain and inner trauma. So she sent a text yesterday, and I'm going to read the text and I'll play a little bit of the text so you get the full scope and magnitude of what I'm speaking about here, people. And what I will say to you guys is just a suggestion. If you are listening when you're washing the car, when you're doing the washing up, when you're doing the cooking, or any other number of the thing that you do in your life, if you want to absorb what I'm going to be saying in this video, which is probably going to last about an hour, then you're really going to need to sit down in peace and concentrate if your intention is to really absorb what I'm saying, if you deeply appreciate what I'm saying. Otherwise, there's no point in you listening, people. And you be advised to spend your time doing something else. So, oh my goodness. So now I'm looking on my phone, and all of her messages have been deleted. And so I don't know whether that means that I'm blocked, or yeah, they're all gone. All gone. So Oh, goodness me. You know, there's certain reservations about speaking about this person in any personal way, because it's personal stuff. But it's also personal to me, and I have a right to speak about my personal life, even when it involves other people's personal lives. So, the messages are all gone. Because last night our conversation ended with me saying, "Are we done now?" And then she said, "Yes, we're done." And then she just gets up and leaves. But the conversations always revert to her suffering, because there's no avoiding it, because it's absolutely absorbing. It's tangible. It's inescapable. Her long-term suffering is exhibited everywhere she goes, in every scenario. And invariably, she burns all bridges. And she sat on the couch last night and she was saying to me that she's just resigned from her job before she got sacked. And she said, I thought about that, and I acknowledged with myself that I destroyed that myself. And I've destroyed everything in my life, all my life. Why is it that I do that? I start trying to discuss this, but as soon as I go, ooh, then she's on again, and on a different tangent, and I just sit here and I go, well, look, okay. So I'm actually the therapist sitting here and I'm listening, and that's my job, to listen, interpret, and to offer a little bit of advice. But there's no advice to be offered to this person. This person will never receive advice. It's too below her to receive advice. And I say to her, I say, you know just a little bit of what I've been about for this past 15 years. You know that I've read thousands of books, many hundreds, on human psychology and spirituality and what it is to be a human being. Many facets that she doesn't even grasp, doesn't even know what the words mean. I couldn't ever say, studying ontology, you know, what is it to be a human being? I couldn't say things like that. She didn't even know what consciousness was. And then she's pointing to her brain about her consciousness is here and her unconsciousness is there, as if it's somewhere in the brain. And I'm like, what are you speaking about? She went, well, that's where your consciousness is, and that's where your unconsciousness is. I said, where do you get that from? So you're telling me that that's not right? Oh, okay then. And I'm like, not only is it not right, it's just preposterous to point at where consciousness is, like in the front here and in the back here. So, you know, look, in a very narrow parameter mind, it's easy to think that your consciousness is at the forefront here, because, you know, it's more reasonable to think that, well, I'm thinking from the front, and anything that's unconscious, well, that's obviously hidden and behind. You know, so she's got those similes going on, and I'm like, it's just ridiculous. In actual fact, it's so far-flung from any reality, because the whole of humanity are not any closer now in discovering where and what consciousness is than they were 300,000 years ago. But she looks like that as if that's completely shocking. What, nobody knows what consciousness is? And she thinks she knows what consciousness is. And then she said to me, so what do you mean when you say consciousness? And I'm like, whoa. I said, look, in view of the fact that you know that I've been pretty reclusive and I study 10, 12 hours a day and read all these books and done all this stuff, do you not think that some of the things I say might be a little bit, in a loose sense, true? Could assist you with some of the issues that you have? And then she just looks and she goes, some things. I'm like, well, like what? Oh, well, you're very eloquent and, you've educated yourself and, I admire that. And I'm like, but you can't take any of it on board yourself as something useful for your consciousness. And the issue is, you see, because with closed-minded people, which is the vast majority of people on the planet, they think that their consciousness is the ever-pervasive consciousness, and there is no other consciousness, and that what they know about the world is how the world is, and that's it, period. And they are absolutely shocked and dumbfounded if something is presented to them that they can grasp, which invariably they can't grasp, but if they manage to settle down and think reasonably for, a period of time, then if they ever question what they were thinking and realise that everybody else is thinking their own thoughts, and we're not all sharing the exact same world, we've got our own individual world. Our own shard of consciousness is particular only to us. But the unconscious people, they project their consciousness onto the whole world. And they go, I know why that person's doing that. I know why this is this. Oh, that person thinks this and the other. It's all projection, 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 projection. And I say to her, you don't realise that you are just projecting your pain and suffering onto the world. That's all you see in your world. That's your easel. That's what you have painted upon the blank canvas of life, your suffering. And then she just looks like this, not being able to grapple with the magnitude of what I've said, but somewhere in her unconscious she's realised that there's a kernel of truth there. So we'll just get some water. As I said, people, I've stopped making anything like the amount of videos that I was making before because it is entirely tiring. And to speak at one level is exhausting for the voice, and I don't derive any pleasure from doing it, and I don't derive any personal gain at all from doing it. In actual fact, it's a detriment to me because I'd rather use my voice for singing, which does in actual fact give me great joy, pleasure, satiation. When I'm singing, be it good or bad, it's an expression, and I'm expressing myself. And I'm learning how to manipulate and mould and guide my voice into something which feels much better, because life is a feeling and singing is a feeling, and when you sing right, it feels right. If you're singing wrong, then it feels wrong. And so that's what I'm doing with my life hitherto. I'm concentrating on what feels good for me, because lots of you will know that, of course, throughout the years I've had all these rants and, been levelling my frustration at you because nobody seems to be getting it, nobody's reading from the same song sheet. It's absolutely astounding how you all live in your own tiny little bubbles and you can never step outside of it. Some of you can, some of you can, to some extent. And so, the first text I got from my sister yesterday, she saw me cycling, coming back from the supermarket with a rucksack full of stuff. And she's coming around the island in her car, and she says that I didn't want to hoot you to go hi, because I didn't want you to turn around and see me and then fall off your bike, and I'd be blamed for that and you'd be hurt. And so anyway, I hope you're alright, and I've been thinking about you, and I hope everything's going well, and so you know, it's been a while, and probably you know, I can come and see you, and you know, hope that we can have a and she's hope. And I sent a text back, and I said, for goodness sake, just stop it with this hoping. I said there's two hopes in life. One's no hope, and the other's Bob Hope. For goodness sake, what are you doing with your mentalism? Why are you always hoping? And, you know, she's got this mental disposition whereby she's super caring for everybody in her life. And some people could say, oh, that's a lovely, benevolent, beautiful thing. If it wasn't so obsessive and if it wasn't so detrimental to herself, then it maybe would be a beautiful thing if she could do it in her stride along with many other things. But you know, she's always bestowing presents on everybody. She just has to keep giving. Why is it that she's giving? Is it because she's such a wonderful person, or is it because she's so troubled inside and she just needs to receive something back? Just maybe like a thank you, like a cuddle, and that's highly important to her in her life. Why is that important? Why does she need this acceptance and this validation? Why does she need the validation? Why is it so important that we're all okay, and she hopes that we're all okay, and she catastrophizes about every last little thing? Catastrophizing about her son doing this and her son doing that, and brothers or sisters doing this and that, and everything is just a catastrophe looming in her life. And you know, it's made her life a living hell. And she's professed this, confessed it, she's expounded on it, you know, in any which way. And but if I try to offer any assistance, I can't reach her, can't even begin to reach her. And you know, one of these people that just doesn't listen, just doesn't have the capacity to listen. And when she goes through, you know, she's got these long monologues and this, that and the other, putting the whole world to rights, and I'm just listening. And of course I'm gathering information, and I'm assessing her mental, you know, disposition at this moment in time. And then eventually when she pauses, I may ask a question, but she won't answer the question. She'll just, oh, so you want it? Oh, she's just assuming this and just assuming that. And oh goodness me, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting, and nothing ever comes out of it. And I'm left feelings that I don't want to feel. I don't want to think about her tragedy. I can't help her. I've tried for years and years and years. And the difficulty is just absolutely letting go. But not only letting go, is just stating very firmly that I don't want even to see you. I don't even want to speak with you. I'm your sister. How can you say that to your sister? As far as I'm concerned, I don't care. I don't acknowledge brothers and sisters. They mean nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. Just because apparently we share the same blood, that's the only thing we share. Everything else is vastly different. So why should I throw out all of the stuff that's vastly different and immensely annoying and just cling on to, well, it's my brother, well, it's my sister, and suffer all that shit indefinitely for the rest of my life? I'm not prepared to do that. We wouldn't do it with anybody else, so why do it with family? Oh, because it's your family. I don't buy it. I'm just not into that. And so I've been, you know, gently encouraging her just to make her feet scarce at my door. Really. because other than 5 minutes, if she is absolutely compelled to come around and bestow some hot pot on me or some second-hand clothes because she just, oh, I just thought you might like, I just thought you need this, I just thought this would be nice, and yeah, you just thought, but there's nothing in this world that I need. And if you want to give me second-hand stuff, okay, I can accept it if I don't want to think about somebody probably died and give that stuff to a charity, or somebody wiped their arse on this t-shirt or masturbated into it, or if I can get over that, if I can get over that the shirt I'm actually wearing now, the previous owner probably masturbated in it, you know, 50 times, or sweated and stunk in it, or wiped his shitty arse in it, I don't know, all these things, it's possible, isn't it? It's highly probable. And so if I can get outside of that, and okay, I'll wear the fucking shirt, which I can well afford to buy myself. It's not like I'm on the breadline and I'm impoverished. No, I can actually go to the supermarket and buy my own fucking clothes. And yeah, oh, I just thought, well, just don't, you know what your problem is? You think. Stop thinking. Stop thinking, because it isn't healthy for you. Some people can think and it's healthy. For you, it isn't healthy. Stop thinking. And that's the root of all your evil and all your demons. But your obsessive thinking, and it's completely erroneous. Why? Because it's coming from a corrupt place. And she thinks that she's an angel and her heart's in the right place, but it's all corrupt. Underneath all the corruption, she's probably a beautiful soul. But the corruption of her life experience has tainted all that, and it perverts it all. And I don't want to see it. I don't want her coming around and then she gives me some old masturbation shirts, and then if I accept them, then she's got a big smile on her face. And I'm like, what the fuck? The fuck? Like, oh, he likes it, he's accepted me, he values me. No, I don't. I don't fucking like the shirt. It's not my fucking choice. I wear them because you give them me, and my others have got holes in because I just can't be fucking bothered to even go to the fucking superstore to buy any. Good God, it's a can of worms, people, and you know, most of you will be able to get your heads around this in some shape or form, because families are completely dysfunctional. And those who aren't, you're living in a fucking dream. You're living in the bubble. You're living in fantasy world. I mean, look, if all my family members were like my daughter, who I have infinite time for, and I would give my last breath for, if all my family members were like that, then yeah, it'd be ecstasy. It'd be absolutely wonderful, because I can't have a negative thought about my daughter. It's not possible for me to do that. And so call that love, call it genetic bonding, whatever it is. But that's the only person I feel that way with and have ever felt that way with. And so trying to comprehend and understand that is beyond me, because it's nothing to do with my mind. It's something to do with spirit. It's something to do with something that I don't comprehend. Maybe a deep-rooted protective genetic thing going on that I can't rationalise very much. So myself and my sister, she thinks she knows everything about me, and your problem's this, and oh, I'm full of problems, and this, that and the other. And I'm like, do you not recognise the stillness? Can you not see the contentedness in this environment? What do you see when you walk into this room? And she's like, well, it's always hot when I come in here, and you know, that isn't healthy. And she's like thinking. She's not looking at anything. She's not interpreting anything. She's not gleaning any information from anything. And I'm like, but what do you think about all this depiction of nature? Well, you're probably just doing that to make your daughter feel better or something. What do you mean? What were you saying? Well, so she thinks that you're calm and you're happy. I'm like, so do you think that, you know, all these things I've gathered in my house and, you know, the art that I've created on that door and the artistic flair I'm doing, you know, with all the rest of the stuff, do you think I'm just doing that so she thinks I'm okay, so I can camouflage my discontentment with life? Is that what you really think? You're insane, woman. You're insane. And that's the level. And then when you start to look at that level of insanity, you've got to be very careful, people, that it doesn't permeate. And obviously it's permeated me to a degree to prompt me into coming out of my retirement. And, you know, speaking very emotive. Relationships like that with family members that you find very difficult to avoid are exceedingly detrimental to your life and your well-being. And I'm thinking, well, look, she professes she's an angel, but I swear she's a devil. She has got so many devils, and all she wants to do is to come round and leave her devils in my home. Leave her devils in my psyche, like she is some twisted, contorted, evil fucking demon herself, knows exactly what she's doing. Because she says, oh, you know, if I'm not too boring, or, you know, if you can stand talking to me, or this and the other. She knows how I feel. And yet she has this compulsion or this evil drive to come and to do it. And every single time she comes round, if she stays more than 10 minutes, then it's always going to end the same. And I'm wondering, after all these years, when are you going to get your head around that? When are you going to accept that I don't like you as a person? We don't get on. You think you know me, you're adamant that you know me, and I'm adamant that you haven't got a fucking clue who you're looking at. You've got not a single clue. You're living 40 years in the past of this brother that did this and did that, and you're projecting that onto the whole fucking world. And that's the thing with people. That's the most devastating thing about the human being, that they are under no... They've got such a delusion of their own reality being everybody else's reality. And she would often say to me that she doesn't need to read all these books, she just knows it. I'm like, wow. Wow. What hubris. What hubris. Billions of books on the planet, but she knows it all. It's astounding, isn't it? It's mental. It's a deep, deep, deep mental disposition. So people, I could speak about that forever, but you get the basic picture. So when she left last night, she's sending a text and then sending another text, and I don't open the text because all it's going to be, oh yeah, and it's all nasty. And then she will say to me, oh, I can be nasty. I'm not a nasty person, I'm not a nasty nature. And I just, I don't say things with the intention to hurt. Sometimes she can feel hurt about things like when I say, I've got no consideration about you being my blood at all. It means nothing to me. Oh, then she thinks I'm absolutely nasty and evil for saying that. And I'm like, I just don't see it like you do. I don't have this emotional bond and this need for this connection with all weathers. Why? Why smash your head against a brick wall all of your life? When are you ever going to accept that just because we're family doesn't mean to say that we have to like each other? Respect each other, love each other, any of it. And I don't do any of those things. I don't like her as a person, I don't love her, I don't respect her. I look at it and I go, well, all I see is a massive conglomerate of problems. And it's like many people we meet in our lives. At the core, at the essence of the human being, before all this shit came upon us, then there's a soul in there which may be pure, but, you know, according to books that I read, like this book, even souls and spirits, when they reincarnate, they don't necessarily have to be clean slates. In actual fact, invariably they're not. They're absolutely as corrupt as any other human being, because they've had millions of incarnations and they've gathered up all of that moss and they take it with them everywhere they go. So when spirits enter into bodies, they bring their baggage with them. And then we look at the nature and nurture aspect of things. Well, the nature is your genetics and what you've been endowed with from your mother and your father and your ancestors and your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. You've got a bit of that shit in your fucking genes. And, you know, you can follow your genetic thread all over the world, right back to the beginning of time. But then there's something else, you know, there's the nurturing with your education, your experiencing, but then over and above that there's the soul. The soul comes with baggage, people. And so this is something that even the vast majority of psychologists, the most eminent ones on the planet, have never worked out. They go, it's all nature or it's all nurture. No, no, no. It is nature and it is nurture, but it's fucking many other things as well. And one of them is the incarnation of spirit, which comes in to create a soul in the human form. This book is a conversation between a group of people and a group of spirits. And so the main theme is necromancy. It's speaking with the dead. It's having a conversation with spirits. And so the Bible would say that that's the devil himself. You're speaking to the devil himself, because that's not allowed, that's not permitted. You've just got to beg for God's mercy. That's all you've got to do, and be terrified of the devil. Good God, people, good God. How that whole Bible, originally designed to impart wisdom for the masses, but has been so corrupt and so tampered with. Any semblance of what it set out to do has been lost, and it's been hijacked by people that want to use it for manipulation, indoctrination, the entrapment of human souls. Religions are used for the entrapment of human souls into one particular egoic energy source, like that of Jesus, or that of Yahweh, or that of Allah, or that of Muhammad. You know, they're just egocentric vacuums for human souls and human consciousness. They're all evil, every single one of them. Every single one of these entities which needs the human energy is obviously bereft of their own self-proclaimed godliness. Because if they were God, they wouldn't need to suck up all of humanity's fucking spiritual resource, would they? No, they wouldn't. So if you've got any religious books and you know anybody religious, they're all devils. They're all mini devils, whether they know it or not. In recent times I've been reading these books, people. Now I'll read this book here. I've read this book 3 times. And this is a world bestseller by Peter Kingsley. And it's a very, very renowned book. Now, the blurb says this. Reality introduces us to the extraordinary mystical tradition that lies right at the root of Western culture. This is the true story of Parmenides, Empedocles, 2 Greek philosophers, and those like them, spiritual guides and experts in other states of consciousness. Now then, bear that in mind and remember that, archive that. Experts in other states of consciousness. It's going to be very important in this conversation. Healers and interpreters of dreams, prophets and magicians who laid the foundation for the world we now live in. Reality documents the excruciating process that led to their work and teaching being distorted, covered over, forgotten. And most importantly, it presents these original teachings in all their immediacy and power, revealing their ability, just as vibrant now as at the dawn of the Western world, to awaken us to what reality truly is. So he's separating the wheat from the chaff and digging out the true writings and the true meanings of these ascended spiritual masters, these so-called geniuses, these people with states of consciousness outside of the ordinary. This one here, Joseph Campbell, some of you will be familiar with. Campbell, who is known for speaking his mind, pulls no punches here. This book, more than any other, unambiguously delineates his basic understanding of mythology and religion. Invertebrate underlines will be tempted to highlight things on virtually every page. Invertebrate underliners will be tempted to highlight. So just going back to the beginning of time, people, this is what we have to do if we're going to comprehend human psychology. We have to go back to discover what our myths were, where all of the information that we carry with us today derives from. It derives from the Jungian collective unconscious. It derives from our myths. It derives from archetypes, and it's all unconscious, and we project that onto the world, mostly without knowing what we're doing or realizing it. Now here is a book that is written by one of my viewers, and this book, entitled What the Fuck Are You Thinking? The Philosophies of an Ordinary Man. And the subject matter in this book, it's basically an introduction to things that we all should know about in this modern world. So the introduction states this: breaking the chains, breaking the conscious, unconscious chains. What is this place? The limits of learning. Religion, God's spell. Politics, who did you vote for? Government, controlling the mind. Government, governing mentality. Government, controlling the mind. The power of words. Science, the religion of scientism. The media, your trusted source. Not. Healthcare and medicine, the sick care industry and its poisons. COVID-19, medical tyranny. Dreams and dreaming, experiencing unlimited imagination. Conspiracies, exploring the rabbit hole. Death, part 1, first rights, the death industry. Spiritual alchemy. Then final thoughts and conclusions. So for anybody that's not worldly wise and who hasn't been down the YouTube rabbit holes, then this book would be very beneficial as an eye-opener to them. But in this day and age, with people such as yourselves, I'm assuming most of you have been down the rabbit hole and are down the rabbit hole, and so all that stuff will be, you know, something that you've encountered, because it's just what we do. When we go down the rabbit hole into YouTube, we end up in flat earth, we end up with the Illuminati, with the lizards, with the Biru, with shapeshifters, with the paedophiles and the blood drinkers, and oh good God, it never ends. It never ends, people. Then this one here, The Secret Doctrine, which is about all things to do with spirits, spirituality, and the essence of the human being that the vast majority of people have got no idea exists, and they just poo-poo all spirits and ghosts when they've got no idea about any fucking thing, evidently. And you know, the masses, they're just dumb as fuck, and anybody that has a higher state of consciousness just looks upon them with the deepest of pity and contempt, really. And you could say, well, it's not their fault. I'm not about pointing the finger saying it's anyone's fault. I'm just speaking facts. The fact is they're pitiable. The fact is they're deplorable. The fact is that they are little more than two-legged sheep, which just simply do not demand any respect. There's nothing to respect there, so why would we? And I'm just not into this sympathy and compassion and love. They're all misnomers. They're all concepts which are empty. They are vacuous, people. And if anybody ever wants to debate me on compassion, love, and those silly, nonsensical concepts, then feel free. But, you know, guaranteed over this 15 years, nobody has ever dared to hitherto. And doubtless they'll never dare from this point forward. So here, this book here, my current book, Carl Jung on Nature, Technology and Modern Life. Now, the book is The Earth Has a Soul. Now, Jung, being an exceptional psychologist, psychoanalyst, he saw vastly more than the vast majority of human beings will ever see. And this is why Jordan Peterson is so engrossed in Jung, because he just sees it for what it is, and sees it with such clarity, and pulls few punches. And there's nothing that you can say about Jung that's outlandish and stupid and not thought out. Nothing. The man was genius, without a shadow of a doubt. And so, in this chapter, I'm going to be reading a few pages, people, if you've got the Constitution to listen, because it's very, very important. And I think it's important that I read the pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages in their entirety. Although I have highlighted certain bits, but to get context, then you'll need to have a little bit of the foundation. So this entire book is a collection of Jung's lectures, letters, excerpts from this work or that work, but the theme is about how the human psyche is deeply connected to nature, but how the ego is completely detached. So we are at a real schism in the evolution, devolution of the human being, because we're retrograding. You see, the whole premise of the Tao Te Ching, people, is that when you are absolutely at your most animalistic, living and thriving in nature alone, then that is when you have the greatest soul satiation, because you are living and being exactly what you were designed to live and be. But what's happened, of course, now with the advent of technology and artificial intelligence, well, our minds have been hijacked. Our minds have been hijacked by an absolute inundation and proliferation of information that mostly is of no benefit to us at all. It's just simply bewildering. But a simple life, like this picture here depicts, him sitting on the lakeside, in his latter years, when his wife died, his wife was very wealthy. They lived in a huge house with lots of land and servants and all that sort of thing. But when she died, obviously he got left the money, and he built with his own hands, with a the help of a carpenter and a stonemason and, you know, what have you. He built his lakeside house out of stone, and it had no electricity, it had no running water, it had no modern comforts, and he used to boil his water on a big cauldron on a log fire, and he used to do all that cooking, and so he'd bathe from the hot cauldron, and, you know, all that, and he'd read by candlelight. Because he maintained that that was the natural state of the human being, and that's how we nurture our soul. And these days, of course, with all the electronic gadgetry, we don't follow our circadian rhythm with the natural daylight and the nighttime of the world. You know, everything's artificially lit, and so most of us don't even ever see any darkness. If we come into the home before dark and we don't leave it until, you know, dawn the next day, then the only inclination we've got of darkness is maybe when we'll look out the window. How many of us actually go out into the darkness and spend any level of time in it, in a state of contemplation, contemplating the darkness, people, contemplating our ancient ancestry, and how, you know, all these myths came out of the fear, which was via the insecurity of the darkness. You see, it's always the darkness, isn't it? Why? Because we can't see in the dark, we can't perceive. So what does the mind do when it can't perceive and it can't see with clarity? It invents monsters. And so that's what happened with all these myths and all these demons and all these devils and all the rest of it. It's all come out of the fact that we couldn't see with the greatest of clarity. But when we become wise, we realise that it isn't with our eyes that we see, it's with our spirit that we see, people. And we don't care whether it's light or dark, because it doesn't affect our spirit comprehending what's going on. Now, this is my daughter telling me she's coming over at lunchtime. Cool. Right. So Jung lived, you know, for his latter years like that, in, you know, deep contemplation, which was his nature, of stillness and meditation, contemplating the evils of the world, the lost soul of the world, humanity's downfall and all the rest of it. Now look, let me begin with this, people, because this video is going to be quite long. The meaning of psychology for modern man. Let me put my green glasses on. In actual fact, you see, look, I've just swapped 3 pairs of glasses, and I've actually got another pair of glasses for long distance, so I need 4 pairs of glasses. I need one for this, I need one for that, I need one for that, and I need another for fucking looking at the fucking stars or the fucking clouds. Oh dear. This essay, originally a lecture given in Cologne in Essen in 1931, contains some of Jung's most poetic writings. Taking the broad view of our evolutionary history as a species, Jung describes human consciousness as young and fragile. Proud of this achievement, we tend to look upon consciousness as a unique blessing, but Jung reminds us that it is also a curse, since consciousness is the means by which our primal unity with nature is disrupted. Through wisdom from dreams, which are pure nature and tell us the unvarnished truth, we can find our way back to the basic facts of human existence. You see, in dreams, we enter into the collective unconsciousness, we enter into archetypes, and we enter into an unfiltered expression and perception of the world. And, you know, we create and we imagine and we meet angels and demons and all those different sorts of stuff, because we enter into the collective unconsciousness of humanity, en masse. Now, sorry about this, people. Oh, so my sister now, having deleted all of those comments, she writes now, apologies for my outburst, but then it says something else. Oh, let me just... apologies for my outburst, but just wanted to talk to someone, not to be videoed slyly, very upsetting. Oh, goodness me. So... What happened? I put the camcorder on in anticipation for her coming around, so I could take the conversation, so I could give it to her, so she could have some insight with the conversation. And so, because she contradicts herself all the time, and she denies that she says this and she says that, she won't accept this and won't accept that. And so if I got it, you know, where she could listen to it and she could see her contradictions and she could see how she goes into this, that and the other, you know, then she could introspect more. So anyway, throughout the conversation, you know, she's looking at the plant, and she's going, oh, what's that? And I put the camcorder behind the plant, and I said, it's a camcorder. Oh, you're filming. Oh, don't get putting that on this. I said, look, I'm not going to put it anywhere. I'm just putting it there so I can record a natural conversation, because I don't want to say, oh, let's record this, and then have you start acting about anything. So anyway, she now deems that's very sly of me and upsetting. Well, why is it sly? Why is it sly? I mean, if it's just between me and her, it would be sly if I was going to slyly put it on the internet without telling her. But that wasn't the intention. And so therefore, again, she's projected onto me, you know, her thoughts on it and her insecurities, without saying, well, you know, why did you do that? And then I explained, you know, but you know, my explanation didn't count for anything, because she's not accepted it, and she's just continued with that. Since every subjective difficulty has to be viewed from the human situation as a whole, our individual efforts to set ourselves in order, endow people, Tao Te Ching, to set ourselves in order, in Tao, in nature. We have to set ourselves in the roots of human psyche. That's nature, that's what we are, that's where we come from. We've got to be there, we've got to go back there again. This constitutes our contribution to the healing of the whole. Jung explains all this in an imagined consultation to modern man, a typical representative of modern culture who is faced with a situation similar to that of the late Roman Empire. Our society has, in fact, the same features that characterized the declining phase of that historic era. According to Gibbon, an increased gap between rich and poor, military power expressed far from the original centre of authority, an obsession with sex, the absurd and grotesque in art masquerading as creativity. How many times do we see modern art like a piece of shit on a pedestal? We're supposed to go, oh wow, that's very artful, that's very thoughtful, oh that's very cosmic, oh yes, I mean, it's far beyond me to interpret and comprehend what that means, because it's modern art and these modern artists, oh, they're out there and they're in a different dimension. No, it's just a piece of shit on a pedestal. Simple as that. And people are getting paid fucking millions for coming up with this fucking crap. It's fucking sickening to the core, people. It's just a desperate attempt at trying to be innovative and trying to be something new and trying to get acclaim which is not deserving to you. If you want acclaim, then fucking create something of value that people can fucking really admire and respect, instead of just like Yoko Ono, what she did one day with her art expedition. She put an apple on a fucking pedestal. What the fuck? And then she had a video where she's lying naked and she encouraged a fly to land and crawl on her arse. And everyone's supposed to look at that as if it's some fucking, you know, magic that's pulled from the cosmos. It's just stupid, fucking egotistical bullshit. People that think they're in the fucking in another state, in another dimension, which is so shrouded in bullshit. It's like the Bible is so shrouded in bullshit, you can't get to the essence of it. You can get to the essence of the Bible if you read the book of Thomas, which is 108 short sayings, short verses. You get to the bottom of what the Bible's about if you do that. So, what Jung is saying here, this is in 1931, people. This was even before anybody was aware of Adolf Hitler. 1931, Jung could see the world falling apart. What a visionary, huh? 1931, you know, good God. Barely any fucking combustion tractions on the road. The world hadn't took to commercial flight. In actual fact, humanity has only been off the ground since, what was it, 1908 with the Wright brothers? For fuck's sake. You see, these days, people, my videos, they're too complicated. They're too in-depth. I'm calling on too much information. And there's a high level of frustration, because what I'm trying to convey to you in my videos is the beach. I'm trying to give you the knowledge of the beach in my videos, but I can only ever present to you a grain of sand. And so I have the beach in here, my consciousness in the cosmos. The beach is the consciousness of the cosmos, and I partake in that, and I'm trying to pull something from it and give it to you, which is, you know, an hour's discourse, and you know, probably mostly incoherent ramblings, because the information is vast. And, you know, to make any concise points is exceedingly difficult. And so I've given up, people. I've given up. Okay. I have always found it uncommonly difficult to make meaning of psychology intelligible to a wider public. I have always found it uncommonly difficult to make the meaning of psychology intelligible to a wider public. Now, that's exactly what I've just expressed. Uncommonly difficult, because the information is vast, and you're trying to. It's took me 15 years, people. It's took me 15 years and 5,000 videos, an absolute minimum 5,000 videos, to convey what I want to convey or have wanted to convey. It's endless. And on this channel alone, there's 1,150 videos. And this channel's been going less than 2 years. So you can see I've been absolutely prolific with this. So Jung is finding it absolutely incredibly difficult to convey what he knows about human psychology to the masses. And that's what we're dealing with. This difficulty dates back to a time when I was a doctor in a mental hospital. He's a psychiatrist. Like every psychiatrist, I made the astonishing discovery that it is not we who hold competent opinions on mental health and sickness, but the public, who always know much better than we do. They tell us that the patient does not really climb up the walls, that he knows where he is, that he recognises his relatives, that he hasn't forgotten his name, that consequently he is not really ill but only a little depressed or a little excited, and that the psychiatrist's notion that the man is suffering from such and such an illness is entirely incorrect. And this is the thing, you know, with my sister, she's got no comprehension of what I know, with what I've learned, of what my experience is. And so I said to her, do you have any idea what may be going on in my mind when I am levelling an assessment to you and helping to guide you, this, that and the other? Do you have any idea, have you any contemplation about what's been in even one of these books? No, she doesn't have. It doesn't enter her world. And that's like the patients in the mental institutions with their family members coming in. Oh, she'll be all right. She's just a little bit excited. She's just a little bit upset. And Jung's going, well, actually, no. He or she has got a very serious mental fucking illness. But if you don't have any knowledge or insight or perception to these things, then you can't see it, can you? Now then, here's one of the highlighted bits. This very common experience introduces us to the field of psychology proper, where things are even worse. Everyone thinks that psychology is what he himself knows best. Psychology is always his psychology, which he alone knows. And at the same time, his psychology is everybody else's psychology. Instinctively, he supposes that his own psychic constitution is the general one, and that everybody is essentially like everyone else. That is to say, like himself. Now, that's just absurd, isn't it? But this is what Jung discovered when he was already a trained psychiatrist. And he's been dealing with patients, and he would be presented with this time and time again. That everybody is in their own fucking world. And this, people, is what I've been saying for many years. We don't live in one world. You know, if we have individuated psyches, if we have individuated shards of God consciousness, cosmic consciousness, then we project our world out onto the blank canvas of life. And, you know, we don't need to do too much delving to discover that we simply do not see, feel, interpret this world the same. Everybody's interpreting a different world. And so therefore we cannot possibly live in one fucking world. And when you get stupid people going, oh, that tree, everyone sees that tree the same. No, they don't. Not a single person will see that tree the same. It just doesn't happen. When you look into the psychology of man, when you look into the vision, when you look into the interpretation, when you look into the whole concept of what people have, they're all wildly different. And so we're so far flung from living in one world, and this is why everything breaks down. This is why we cannot communicate with anybody unless they are under hypnosis. And that's why the powers that be on the world put everybody, whoever they can, under hypnosis, because this is the only fucking way they can get consensus and go forward with anything. Husbands suppose this of their wives. Wives suppose this of their husbands, parents of their children, and children of their parents. It is as though everyone had the most direct access to what is going on inside him, was intimately acquainted with it and competent to pass an opinion on it, as though his own psyche were a kind of master psyche which suited all and sundry, and entitled him to suppose that his own situation was the general rule. Oh my God! Are you listening to this, people? Just that paragraph there, the genius and the insight of that. And this is what I've been crying for 15 fucking years. You know, look, I've often, you know, I've blustered about my own personal genius in a condescending, demeaning, derogatory sort of way, in a desperate attempt to try to rattle your cages in any shape or form, to get you to engage, to express something that you think you know. If you have any simile going on, if you've got any confluence with the things I'm saying, then please let me know. Let me know there's more than fucking me sitting in my chair in my own fucking cave, you know. But how many of you have done that? Exceedingly few. Simply because of this, people. Simply because of this. Let me read it to you one more time. Having said this, the very common experience introduced to us of the field of psychology proper, where things are even worse. Everyone thinks that psychology is what he himself knows best. Psychology is always his psychology, because he doesn't ever contemplate anybody else's psychology. That's completely without the realms of his capacity. It's not possible to be empathetic, to walk a mile in your shoes, or this, that and the other. For the masses, they can't do that. They can't stop to think about how you can perceive things. They can't question how you perceive things. You see, we need to question, we need to enter into a dialogue. What is it that you are seeing? What is it that you are feeling? Why are you seeing this? What are you feeling? You know, why are you feeling this? Why do you think you are feeling these things? Have you got any idea why you're feeling these things? Let's investigate that. Let's go back. That's what the whole regression thing's about, people. We need to regress people for years to get into their psyche, and we need them to be an open book, not like my sister, who's completely closed and resentful of any intrusion because she thinks she knows best and she thinks her psychology is the fucking world. For fuck's sake, it's incredible. And at the time, his psychology is everyone else's psychology. Instinctively, he supposes that his own psyche constitution is the general one, and that everyone essentially is like everyone else. That is to say, like him. Husbands suppose that their wives are like them. Wives suppose that their husbands are the same. Parents suppose that their children all share in the same psyche. It's as though everyone had the most direct access to what is going on inside him. It's like, you should know what I am because we're all the same, right? And this is, you know, this whole notion of being the same. Everybody is completely and utterly different. We're not all the fucking same. And these motherfuckers that tried to pull this one over the humanity in the last fucking decade, they've come a cropper now. With the inauguration of Trump, because he said he's stopping all of that bullshit. There's only two sexes, and he's stopping absolutely the corruption of this imposed fucking liberalistic fucking bullshit where everybody's equal, everybody has the same rights. He says no. We consider everybody of value, but it is on a merit premise. If you are a PhD in this, that and the other, then you are going to be getting the job and not this new immigrant coming over who's only got a certificate in fucking whatever. It's not the same caliber. He doesn't have the same qualifications. We're not just fucking being this liberal, sympathetic, compassionate society at our own detriment, because we need the skilled people in these positions. And that's what's got to change, and that is what is going to be changing in the next 4 years in America. God bless Trump. People are... it is as though everyone had the most direct access to what is going on inside him, was ultimately his own psyche, where the kind of master psyche which suited all and sundry, and entitled him to suppose that his own situation was the general rule. And like my sister sitting here on the couch, no comprehension of how I am or what I think as an individual. She's just projecting onto me what she wants me to be, or what she, in her twisted fucking state of consciousness, thinks I am. And she won't accept that I'm not that. And that is a projection. It's unfathomable. What do you mean a projection? I know what you are. You're telling me I don't know what you are. Yes, I'm telling you I don't know. You don't know what I am. I'm telling you that. I'm telling you should read a little bit more and open your fucking consciousness. Peace. People are profoundly astonished or even horrified when this rule quite obviously does not fit. When they discover that another person really is different from themselves. You see, look, people, many of you'll be blustering now. Oh, well, of course we know we're all different, Aaron. You know, but to what extent you know you're all different? Do you really know the differences? You will only know the differences if you have the deep insight into other people's psychology, into other people's anatomy, into other people's consciousness, into other people's brain functioning. When we start to learn that people don't have internal monologues or internal dialogues, and when they don't actually see pictures in their consciousness, when they close their eyes, when you start to understand a few things like this, then you'll be aghast at my God, I've been thinking that everybody saw the world just like I did, but now I'm shocked to discover that they have never seen the world like I did, and they all interpret it very, very differently, premised on their nature and on their nurture and on their corrupt spirit or their benevolent spirit or whatever it is. There's a billion things that come into it which just complicate things, and will never ever for a fucking instant get to the bottom of it because it's too vast. Generally speaking, they do not feel these psychic differences as in any way curious, let alone attractive, but as disagreeable failings that are hard to bear. I can speak endlessly just on that. Generally speaking, they do not feel these psychic differences as in any way curious. They're not interested in how you feel or think or getting inside your head, because they don't believe you have anything outside of what they're projecting. You see, if you say, oh, I think this or I think that, oh, yeah, and then they'll continue speaking about themselves again. They won't listen to what you say. They won't rationalise what you say. They won't inquire into what you say. They won't try to get in a confluence with what you say and how you see the world and ask why you see the world. Because if you did that for 2 years, then you go back to childhood. Oh, the reason why you are feeling this about this power structure or this about, these invalids or infirm people is because of this, what happened to you in your childhood. Now it becomes quite apparent and quite clear. Thank you for helping me with that. But people don't do that. Nobody's interested in psychology, least of all governments, unless they're using it for their own benefits. The painfully obvious difference seems like a contravention of the natural order, like a shocking mistake that must be remedied as speedily as possible, or misdemeanour that calls for condign punishment. Instead of vexing myself to no purpose over such narrow-minded and short-sighted views, I began to wonder why they should exist at all. Why should people have these vast, varying ways of perceiving the world? A very good question, Jung. And I tried to discover what reasons might be. This inquiry led me to study the psychology of primitive peoples. He went to Africa several times and lived with the natives and studied their psychology and their mythology and their folklore and this, that and the other. All very interesting stuff, people. I had long been struck by the fact that there is a certain naivety and childlikeness about those who are most prejudiced in favour of psychic uniformity. How everybody thinks that everybody is thinking the same, and everybody wants the same, and anybody that has an objective outside is an anomaly and is unusual, and anybody that actually thinks for themselves is a fucking genius, and mostly to be distrusted and to be afraid of, because you never know what they're going to do, because they're an anomaly and they think things. They get the information from the devil. They're conjurers, they're wizards and all this stuff. And that's why the human being burned witches and wizards for fucking thousands of years. And they've only started burning them in the last 200 fucking years. Good God. The human being is just an abomination. It's a fucked up abomination. And, it's led by a handful of extended conscious beings. And the rest of them are complete and utter fucking useless drones. And, I'm just telling it the way it is, people. This is, in actual fact, the way it is. And if you've learned, and if you've read extensively, and if you've listened to psychology video after video after video after video, and if you're doing it for 15 fucking years solidly, you may come to the same conclusion. Just like Jung did, just like Nietzsche did, just like anyone that's a thinking person, you come to the same conclusion, people, because we're in one pool of cosmic information. And when you're perceptive, you just see how it is. You just see. Instead of vexing myself to no purpose over such narrow-minded and short-sighted views, I began to wonder why they should exist at all, and I tried to discover what the reasons might be. This inquiry led me to the psychology of primitive peoples. I had long been stuck in the fact that a certain naivety and childlikeness about those who are most prejudiced in favour of psychic uniformity. Uniformity. In primitive society, one does in fact find that this assumption extends not only to human beings but also to objects of nature. The animals, plants, rivers, mountains and so on, they all have something of man's psychology in them, projected into them. Even trees and stones can speak. And just as there are certain human beings who obviously do not conform to the general rule and are honoured as magicians, witches, chiefs or medicine men, so among the animals there are Dr. Coyotes, Dr. Birds, werewolves and the like, whose horrific title is conferred whenever the animal behaves in any way out of the ordinary and upsets the tacit assumption of uniformity. This prejudice is evidently a vestige, but a very potent one, of a primitive frame of mind which is based essentially on the insufficiently differentiated consciousness. Individual consciousness or ego consciousness is a late product of man's development. Its primitive form is a mere group consciousness, and among the primitive societies that still exist today, this is often so poorly developed that many tribes do not even give themselves a name that would distinguish them from other tribes. So they don't have any sense of individuality. They are collective. They've always been a collective. You see, primitive people, they depend on each other. Everybody is entirely dependent on each other. So there's no notions of individuation. And even though, you know, some go out to hunt and some weave baskets and some mind the children, this, that and the other, it's a collective effort. So there's no need for them to think outside of that. And then when someone does start thinking outside of that, imaginatively, innovatively, then all of a sudden they're a wizard or they're a magician, they're a conjurer, and they are afraid of, unless over time the actions of these conjurers can see that actually something beneficial has come out of what they're thinking, their weirdness, because now they know how to dig wells, now they know how to build forts, now they know how to fucking create a wheel. Our assumption that what pleases me must necessarily please everyone else is therefore an obvious relic from that primordial night of consciousness, where there was no perceptible difference between you and I, and where everyone thought, felt and acted in the same way. But if anything happened which showed that someone was not of a like mind, there was an immediate disturbance. Nothing arouses so much panic among primitives as something out of the ordinary. It is at once suspected to be too dangerous and hostile. This primitive reaction survives in us too. How prompt we are to take offence when somebody does not share our convictions. Oh, I don't think that. Oh, yeah, oh. You know, we can't get over ourselves, can we? And I said to my sister last night, I said, look, I said, you will never ever emancipate yourself from your demons, from your frustrations, from all of the negative experiences that you've had in your life, if you cannot step outside of yourself. You've got to step outside. But this is what the whole waking up is about. When we wake up, we have our psyche, our ego shocked to its core. And that's the only time it appears that people will start to perceive a different way of looking at the world. Because humanity is too deeply rooted into the hive mind. And we need to be absolutely shocked, we need to be devastated before some of us will start to think along another line. Many of us will just take their lives because they can't bear this new world that they've entered into, which is so alien to them, because all their lives they thought they knew some fucking thing, and now it's discovered that they in actual fact don't have a fucking clue about anything. So that's one of the reasons why suicide is almost the top cause for human death on this planet. We are insulted when somebody finds our idea detestable. We still persecute anyone who thinks differently from ourselves. We still try to force our opinion on others, to convert poor heathens in order to save them from the hell that is indubitably lies in wait for them. And we are all abysmally afraid of standing alone in our belief. So, you know, we've created religions to bring everybody back into the fold. Stop thinking about these things, stop imagining, stop dreaming, just come back and just read this one book. The Bible will tell you to read one fucking book all of your life. Don't ever pick up anything else, because you're dicing with the devil if you start to do that. If you start to eat from the tree of knowledge, you're dicing with the devil. And of course, you know, that's the whole downfall of man. And in the whole of the Bible, you know, we're fallen creatures because we dared to learn something. And then the Bible wants to bring you back from learning. Forget all this learning. It's only going to fucking destroy you. And in a sense, in a fundamental sense, it is true. It is true, people, because look, when you look at it like this, it is natural fact knowledge which is fragmented the human psyche. Because if it wasn't for the copious amounts of so-called knowledge that is at the tips of our fingers, which are distracting us from absolutely everything, then we would be living like pigs in shit back in the day of the Tao. Now apparently the Tao Te Ching was written by Lao Tzu about 800 AD. So let's say 1200 years, and in those days, you know, things were much more simply, but even he could see the onset of bureaucracy and the so-called civilization, which was getting people out from the fields and into the towns, doing mindlessly boring, repetitive jobs, and just living like rats in a maze. He could see that the psyche was falling apart. The ideal human situation is a tribe's person, when they are a hive mind, they don't have any individual thoughts, no ingenuity, they don't have any fantasies going on, they don't want to change anything, they want to keep everything the same, because if you do that, everyone's happy. As soon as you bring changes into things, then everyone becomes unhappy. Look what happened in America when the Westerners arrived in America, and they put the Mason-Dixon line, the railway line from east to west, and that killed off a whole species, didn't it? The Red Indian, the American indigenous natives. It decimated them, it killed them. Look what happened down in Mexico with all those places, decimated them. Look what happened all over the world when new things have been introduced. It kills the old. It kills the old, people. And lots of people are afraid about that because they don't want that. But, you know, the human being is a very, very curious being. We are the cosmos, and we are a result of cosmic consciousness, and cosmic consciousness is on a trajectory of self-knowledge. It's self-experiencing, and it's using us just as one as a billion species that it's used, dinosaurs and all the rest of it. There's nothing special about the human being, and so when you look at the bigger picture, you can see this, that consciousness is evolving, and lots of people will speculate that is consciousness using the human being to develop AI? And I say absolutely that's what consciousness is being, because consciousness does that. Consciousness keeps creating, and it's going to keep creating and creating and creating and creating until one day it creates something which implodes, you know. And we've all seen the movies, haven't we? We've all seen the movies when we just take it another step beyond that which we have any vision of or any control over. You know, it's like Terminator, when the robots take over the world, or we destroy the world with a nuclear holocaust, or this, that and the other. Ultimately that will do that, and it's probably already happened, you know, because we've got no idea how these ancient hominids used to live, who built the pyramids and all the rest of it. It's completely been lost to us. Why? What happened? What happened? Which just destroyed everything, and we started again. It's kind of like a new species just start to evolve around the footings of the Egyptian pyramids, and not a single person to this day has any idea how they were made. Well, they've got lots of stupid ideas, but none of them feasible. We just do not know how they were made. Human consciousness is very, very, very young. And this is the whole thing. And, you know, when we've got so-called geniuses, these are facets of consciousness which are evolving. They're mutations. They're effectively mutations. It's like the Elon Musks of the world, who just think in fantasy ways. And if people, you know, have faith in your thoughts, or think they can use your thoughts, think they can manipulate your thoughts, and this, that and the other, then you're going to get funding and you're going to get backing, which is Musk has got. Now, apparently Musk made his millions with PayPal, but because then he had £30 million at his disposal, he could then fuel his other fantasies. And because he'd already been successful with PayPal, then people all want to fund, you know, the winner, don't they? So they all back the winner. And so that's what's happened with Musk. And for those of you that watched the Trump inauguration, which was his 30-minute inauguration speech, in that he says, and we're going to go to Mars. And then you've got a picture of Musk, like a 7-year-old kid being told that he's going to be getting his dreamed Christmas present for fucking Christmas, or for his birthday, or whatever, about this silly fantasy. Who the fuck gives a fuck about man on fucking Mars, when we can't even cater for 1 billion things that are fucking the human being up here on Earth? Don't you just think it's absolutely ridiculous? It's preposterous. But this is why it's happening, people. Trump, of course, is no fool, and he's liaised with Musk because he can use Musk, because Musk has got reach. And Musk was there for Trump when everyone banned Trump on social media. Musk didn't do that because obviously Musk knew that if he backed Trump and he was a winner, it was a massive investment. So they've both backed winning horses at this moment in time. Trump is backing Musk, and Musk backed Trump. And so now, because Musk backed Trump and massively funded Trump, then of course Trump has got to feed and back Musk. So therefore, Trump is going to find government money to fund Musk's silly, infantile fucking fantasy of sending a rocket to Mars. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's preposterous beyond all measure. But that's the price that the Trump organisation, administration, has got to pay for the backing and support of the richest man on the planet. Can you see the ridiculousness of what's going on in the world, people? Shouldn't really Musk turn his genius to fucking, you know, preventing illness, or preventing poverty, or raising people up, or doing any number of things to bring, you know, the suffering people of the world up to a higher standard? But no, what he wants to do is send a few fucking idiots, retards, fucking millions of miles to a dead fucking planet where they are absolutely destined to die. My God. But if you can stop just to think about what's going on, you see, I look at that and I look at what Trump's going to do. Well, he's going to be executing anybody that's got anything to do with fucking gangs and cartels and drugs and embezzlement and anything like that, mafia, Mexican drug cartels and all that. They're going to be executed. He said he's going to be killing them. There's going to be no fucking reprieve for these people. They're going to die. And then millions and millions of what he calls illegal immigrants, which mostly they weren't illegal because they're brought in under the Biden administration. So he's going to be sending all those back. So it's like Mexican waves, isn't it? America's like Mexican wave. One wave or tsunami comes this way. 4 years later, it's sent back over the other fucking way. And meanwhile, underneath the tsunami is the American nation, and it's getting tossed this way. It's getting tossed that way, and it doesn't know what the fuck is happening in its life, and it's fragmenting its psyche. And that's why suicide has never been fucking more favourable, and hate is rife and confusion is rife and all the rest of it, because you've got a ridiculous policy where one person can come into the administration and completely change what everybody else has done. And so what level of intelligence allows this to happen? For one administration to completely wipe out all the hard work and the gazillions and gazillions of dollars spent. For those of you that watched the inauguration, you'll see Biden sitting next to Kamala, and then you'll see the fucking Clintons in the background, stone-faced. And of course they're hating every single second of what Trump has said, because Trump is saying, look, these fucking retards that America's just suffered for the past 4 fucking years, I'm going to bulldoze every fucking last thing that they stood for. There's going to be not a single fucking stone standing of what they represented or represents them. Every single thing is going to be bulldozed, and I'm going to start again because I'm the greatest. I'm Trump. I can build huge penis-sized fucking skyscrapers that show my virility, and that's where we are. We're being led by a giant cock. We're being led by a giant ego. We're being led by testosterone, people. Musk testosterone to get his semen onto Mars. Trump with his testosterone to get his semen all over the fucking world. It's just a wank fest. Now, one of the things is maybe quite disconcerting to the American people, to the world in actual fact. Trump states that he is going to take Panama Canal back. Well, how's he going to do that if Panama don't agree with what he's going to be doing? Well, sounds like another potential for World War III, when China backs Panama and Russia backs Panama, and you know, all this same old bullshit going on over and over again. Over and over again. It's fucking tedious, people. This is why I'm exhausted with it. I'm just exhausted with it. And there's nothing more enjoyable for me than going out, spending time with my friends in the garden, and playing my music and going to the gym and walking in nature and educating myself with proper, you know, literature. Okay, we're almost there, people. Psychology is an empirical science. Let's change them for these. Psychology as an empirical science is of very recent origin. It is not yet 50 years old and is therefore still in its oh, I don't have any more water. Still in its swaddling clothes. The premise of equality prevented it from being born earlier. From this we can see how young and kind of differentiated consciousness is. It has just crept out of its long sleep, slowly and clumsily taking cognizance of its own existence. It would be a delusion to imagine that we have attained anything like a high level of consciousness. Our present day consciousness is a mere child that is just beginning to say I. Now, if you take that on board, people, you will be able to discern a great deal of the human issues, because most people seem to think that the human being is genius, it's great, it's got all the answers to the fucking cosmos. It's got no fucking answers. It's got absolutely zero fucking answers. And even when the scientists tell you that they know what 4% of the cosmos is, even that 4%, which is the physical matter, disappears into nothingness. So they don't even know where the fuck it goes or how it does it, how it is this shape-shifting. Because when you get down to the quantum level, there's nothing that fucking exists except probability. So they're talking out their fucking arseholes. Nobody knows anything, people. And this is the stage that I'm at. And one of the viewers put a negative comment down, you know, blustering at me because I said that in 15 years, you know, I've learned nothing. There's nothing to learn. What I've learnt is there's nothing definitive to learn. There's just a fucking soup of shit. There's just a cesspool of human consciousness which is going round and round and round, eating its own fucking tail, sticking its own head up its own fucking arse. And ultimately, it's just going to wipe itself out. Where's the genius in that? Where's the benefit in it? There's nothing. There's nothing there, people. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life to discover how enormously different people's psyches are. If the collective equality of the psyche were not a primordial fact, the origin of the matrix of all individual psyches, it would be a gigantic illusion. But despite our individual consciousness, it unquestionably continues to exist as the collective unconscious. So even though we have this individuated consciousness which potentially can think individual thoughts, the vast majority of the world don't do that. And anybody outside of that, then we call them genius. And we give them trillions and trillions of taxpayers' money to send a fucking cock full of semen over to a dead planet. But despite our individual consciousness, it unquestionably continues to exist as the collective unconscious, the sea upon which the ego rides like a ship. For this reason, also, nothing of the primordial world of the psyche has ever been lost. Just as the sea stretches its broad tongues between the continents and laps them around like islands, so our original consciousness suppresses round our individual consciousness. In the catastrophe of mental disease, the storm tide of the sea surges over the island and swallows it back into the depths. So when you've got individuated shards of consciousness popping like islands out of the ocean, then the ocean will swell and gobble them all back up again. So that's what he's saying. And so, you know, now and again you've got like whack-a-mole. You've got someone popping up, you know, individuated state of consciousness. Mostly they're completely ridiculed, unless the powers that be get hold of what they're saying and want to use it and promote it, and then the masses get inundated with the repetition of the propaganda, and then they'll accept it. But nobody ever accepted, you know, many of the things that many of the geniuses have ever said, and they died unrecognised. In the catastrophe of mental disease, the storm tide of the sea surges, blah blah blah. Neurotics are all shore dwellers. So neurotics are all shore dwellers. They are the most exposed to the dangers of the sea. So-called normal people live inland on higher, drier ground, near placid lakes and streams. No floods, however, high reach them, and the circumambient sea is so far away that they even deny its existence. So people that live on the high land, they'll never suffer the turmoil of a high tide, which will wash away or upset their psyche. You see, when people living, you know, on like a mountain, let's say, they never get disturbed by their psyche because everything's exactly the same. But if you live on the shore and a tsunami comes in, well, that's going to fuck you up, and that's going to get you thinking in a different way. I'll just let me read one more highlight here, people, because my voice is getting tired of this shit, and my daughter's going to be here soon. If we are honest, we must admit that no one feels quite comfortable in the present day world. Indeed, it becomes increasingly uncomfortable. The word crisis, so often heard, is a medical expression which always tells us that the sickness has reached a dangerous climax. When man became conscious, the germ of the sickness of dissociation was planted in his soul. For consciousness is at once the highest good and the greatest evil. It is difficult to estimate the sickness of the age in which we live. Now, when we are familiar with the Bible, we will see that basically is what the Bible has said. The Bible has said that the root of all evil was the serpent who introduced humanity to knowledge. Now we can see that knowledge it's been beneficial in lots of respects, but in many respects it's been very unbeneficial. And if we look at the psyche of the world, then it's getting worse and worse and worse, because as grand as our production and innovations are, it's not helping human psyche, is it? Human psyche is slumping lower and lower and lower. We're becoming less educated, we're becoming more distracted. And Jung was saying, even in 1930, that people weren't absorbing information, because people were saying at the time, how is it now that the kids of today are not absorbing the school curriculum? And Jung was saying, well, it's the advent of distraction, because they've got radio and they're listening to the radio, and then with the advent of television, massive distraction. He had no idea about mobile phones. He had no idea about the internet. He had no idea about satellites. He had no fucking idea about the internet and all that different sort of thing. And yet he predicted the downfall of the human psyche way back then. And so when we look at that, people, when we look at how fragmented people are, and you see, when you see this, like he saw it, client after client after client after client after client coming into his office in their own world, completely unpenetrable, and weren't able to absorb even a fraction of what he was saying, or even have a little bit of insight into his pond, into his outer parameter of a concentric circle. This is why I'm always using this analogy of when you throw a pebble in a pond and you get these concentric circles going out further and further and further. Well, the most conscious people are the ones with the furthest ripple. Now they can see inside, right to the very, very beginning of the plot of the stone, the pebble, because they have travelled all that path in this life or in other lives. But the people in the smaller circles, their consciousness is very, very contained, and they can't see out into the further extremities of the ripples outside. And so that's why the difficulty is in communication. How do you address that? How do you get over that? The only thing you can do is to implant into their programmable matter brains information. You just keep telling them. You program them through indoctrination, through your schools and your colleges and universities and your media and all this different sort of stuff, so they think what you want them to think. It can't be any other way, people. And when people start to get an uproar about Bill Gates is doing this and Klaus Schwab is doing that, I'm like, everything has to be done. Everything has to be done, because that's what the cosmos is. The cosmos is polarity. The human being is polarity. We've got split brain. Everything is a polarity. There can't just be this utopia. To have a utopia is just a pathetic fantasy, like the Garden of Eden, a pathetic fantasy that never fucking actually existed, people. But what people did when they wrote about the Bible, they looked at human psychology and they fantasized, well, wouldn't it be great if we didn't know any of this stuff, because then we'd all live like pigs in shit. And of course, by the time they was writing these Bible stories, they knew about small communities of 100 or 200 people which all lived together in harmony and this, that and the other. And you know, there's no great new big innovations which turn their worlds upside down, this, that and the other. But with the advent of knowledge, and then with the advent of ships and trains bringing new knowledge in, and people writing books, oh goodness me, bringing religions, it's turned the world upside down, inside out, people. And it will be the downfall of human being. Unless, most certainly it's going to be the downfall of the human being. But what people like Musk and Kurzweil are thinking, they're preempting this. I'm pretty sure that they're preempting the downfall of the dumb ape. And they're thinking, well, look, the only way that we can get any consensus and any hive mind back to the world in these massively changing times, if we fucking download all the information into brain chips in their fucking brain. So they all think exactly the fucking same. And that way nobody will ever have an argument, nobody will ever fucking murder anybody, nobody will ever try and be a dictator, and nobody will be inventing anything, because they won't need inventions anymore, because AI will be able to tell us how to do all that, because it can crunch numbers bigger than any fucking brain has remotely ever been able to manage to do. So people, can you see why I don't make videos anymore? I try not to. I try not to. And I know how that was exhausting. It's exhausting. But now it's gone. Oh, I've relieved myself from it. You know, it's like, well, it's an energy release. It's a psychic release. Something makes me do it. But I'm trying to fight against it. I'm trying to counter it, because it isn't conducive with my level of happiness. You know, I'm little more than John the Baptist, a voice in the wilderness, crying out. John the Baptist was never recognised until the day he met Jesus. And then Jesus bestowed authority upon John the Baptist. And then it was written that John the Baptist was in actual fact Elijah, an ancient prophet. And then Jesus was Elisha, an ancient prophet, and they're all reincarnated beings back to Thoth. Or Thoth was one of the originals incarnated beings. You see, they just keep cycling around. So why did Jesus need baptizing? He was the Son of God. He had all the knowledge of God. Surely, didn't he? Why did he become less than John? Why is it that he needed to be baptized? Because when we're baptized and we become born again, well, did Jesus need to be born again? Or did Jesus need to bestow the crown of a prophet onto John the Baptist? Because the biblical writers needed to show this lineage, that John the Baptist was Elijah, and then Elijah, you know, probably Enoch, and then Enoch was probably Thoth, and all this sort of stuff. It's just storytelling, people. Storytelling, all of it. And it just runs so deep, it runs so massive. And if I'm starting talking about one particular subject, it's very, very difficult for me to stay on track without just going off on a million tangents, because just like Jordan Peterson, you know, he's thinking like this, and everything is hard work, isn't it? When you listen to watch Jordan Peterson, it's hard work, because he wants to tell you something, but he's got to pick all this fucking stuff out, and he's got to, you know, compile it into the most digestible fucking format that he can. And he's wringing his hands, and he's clenching his fists, and he's pointing, and he's grabbing from the air. Yeah, that's how it is, people. That's how it is. It's not a good place to be. Where's the best place to be? The best place to be is sitting in a log cabin, in a small village, if you need someone to help you with this and that, and you want to swap your eggs for someone's onions, that's the best. And hopefully there's someone that knows a little bit about homeopathy that can help you with a few symptoms here and there and this and the other. But the chances are, if you lived in one of these small villages, you wouldn't suffer from a great deal. In any case, because you'd be living healthy, you'd be working every day, you'd be exercising the body. When I first went to Bulgaria, before they were in the European Union, they'd only been out of communism for 16 years. And when I bought one of my properties, I bought this ranch in a village. There was only one other car in the village. Let's say 250 houses. And that was an old Moscovich Russian car. And the people were still travelling around on horse and carts, or donkey and carts, and you got this little old man and a little old lady. They looked about 120 years old, both together, been together since they were kids, no doubt. And they bend over in the field, and they're putting up the garlic and the carrots and this and the other. And they live to be this age, and they're able-bodied and they're fit. And they're not sitting with swollen legs and gout and this, that and the other in hospital. You go in hospital these days, all these illnesses pertaining to inflation. The inflation just is destroying people, and that's because of the lack of use of body and the lack of nutrients and the shit that they're eating and all the rest of it. So the Tao Te Ching had one message, and if, you know, people can decipher what the message is, if they can critically read and understand things, then maybe you'll discern that too. But, you know, that's the root of it. That was the absolute essence of critical thinking, looking at the whole Tao Te Ching and taking out what the essence was. And the essence was, when you live like a primate, that's when you are absolutely the most content. So there's a lot to be said for that. But then, of course, with the age of technology, this, that and the other, you know, it's a case of where do we stop? Where do we stop? Well, Jung knew where to stop. He built his house and he didn't want any of it. No telephone, no electricity, no running water. He just wanted to live simple and to be at one with nature and to contemplate on his cosmic consciousness. So throughout all of his life, he eventually found his way. What a road to travel, what a path. Immensely complex, spanning a whole lifetime. Well, he lived to be 83, I think. So there you have it, people. A few things to contemplate. And, you know, make of it what you will.